Jody Vance with you alongside Eric Chapman, and I miss Amir. I could cry.
Ugh, boo.
Have you not been watching Ben Dooley on Twitter?
Yes.
The producer of the Jill Bennett show. He's like, yes, he's crying.
I've cried every day since you left. Oh, yes, I'm not a human anymore.
Of course, Amir Ali, who has been at the heart of the Linda Steele show for so long, alongside Eric and Linda. I mean, Linda left, and then Amir got his job at the Daily Hive as a contributor there, and he's been doing such great work there. It is, you know, I want to say I'm proud of him, but I mean, I'm proud to be his colleague. It's just, it's amazing what he brings up, and I wouldn't put it past him to do a story like this, which is why I want to celebrate it here with you.
The 10 best places to cry in Vancouver. I think that a lot of us can relate to this right now. And if you're wondering, I asked him if he's okay. Yes, he's fine. It's just an article. Nobody needs to freak out. He's doing okay. But nothing beats a good cry. And as men, we don't do it enough, right?
Right.
So finding a good spot can be helpful in letting it all go. I cried yesterday. I read an article about salmon in a river in California. And because of climate change, all of the fish are going to die in that river because the water's too hot. I put my pencil down and I cried thinking, what are we going to do? It's not going to, like, this is a horrible situation. So that's when I cried last.
Yeah.
We need a good cry, trust me. So I
cried in the fires. Yeah. I cried when I had the relief of not having to do the go bag and go. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to have this moment here. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was probably a big stress buildup to that apex. Wow. Good for you. And did it feel good after?
So much better.
Yeah, that's the thing. It makes it feel better. So I asked Amir, when was the last time you cried, brother man?
I remember the last time I was really close to crying, if that counts.
Yeah, that counts.
And the reason this is obviously kind of contradictory to my article, because again, crying is very good for you, and people should definitely cry, especially men who hold it in. And that's not why I held it in, but it was when I was watching the Mr. Rogers documentary in theaters, and from beginning to end of that movie, I was holding back like these sobbing tears. Like I was going to just break down inside of that theater. And that's mainly the reason why I held it in. I don't want to be a distraction to other moviegoers. But yeah, that was probably the last time. And I'm not constantly holding back tears.
Okay.
If I had a good reason to, I definitely would cry.
Okay, that was my question. You're not you're not afraid to. If you got to cry, you will. Other than that situation, of course, but I get that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think, you're right about the men thing, eh? Men, we don't cry. It's like it's almost beaten into us, isn't it?
It is. Now, I didn't include that aspect in the article specifically, but it is important to talk about. Yeah. And this has been an ongoing conversation, I think, in the last few years about just men's mental health in general. I don't think that in general, men have a healthy approach to coping with their emotions. And I think honestly, this might sound crazy to you, I think you are the sort of epitome of what men should strive to be like in terms of dealing with their emotions. The number of times when we work together that you cry on the air is crazy.
I know, I cry all the time. I was thinking about it. But that's interesting there too. That's why I think this is a good article for men to kind of tie it all together. Because men are so afraid to cry, having a place to go cry in solitude can be a really positive thing.
Yeah, I was reading some feedback about my article on Reddit, and some people were sort of criticizing me for just picking popular spots in Vancouver, and that was not at all the intention behind this article. Even though some of the spots that are featured in the article are definitely popular places, I make sure to highlight that there are quiet spots to go to these places, so you're not embarrassed about crying around, the general public.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the first item on the list was the Vancouver Public Library, obviously a place where a lot of people go to. But the amount of times I've been able to find a quiet spot in that library to just be alone and read a book is amazing. And you could do the same thing if you just want to go and have a cry, find a little cubicle in maybe the fifth floor in the corner of the library. And yeah, no one's going to know that you shed a tear or two.
Okay, so privacy is one thing, but what else makes a good cry spot?
Something that can take your mind off of, I guess, the reason for your emotional welling up. For example, the spot on Kiss Beach, which isn't necessarily a spot that everyone can find. So again, in the article I write that I believe you head down Balsam Street from West Fork or Broadway, wherever, and there's a stairway that leads down into this very private part of Kiss Beach that's a few blocks away from the main area. And it's just rocks and some logs in the water. And I think a spot where nature can kind of soothe you is great. Not necessarily to help me with my tears, but a lot of times when I'm feeling just a bit of mental anguish, just a walk in nature has helped me so much to just kind of revitalize my mental state. And I think that's what something like the beach can do. English Bay is actually another good spot that's not featured in the article, but there's a section at English Bay. Do you know where that big rock statue is?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a spot there where there's like a circle of benches, but you could just go a little bit further down. There's a sort of big gathering of rocks right next to the water. And you can just sort of carefully step down a few rocks, and there's a bunch of these larger rocks that are perfect for sitting down on. And you just get sort of lost in the ocean, and, you know, a great spot to just reflect and cry and almost meditate, you know, it's a meditative experience.
That's what I was gonna say. This sounds like it sounds incredibly healthy and more of a meditative thing. I wonder too, though, do you think you get what if there's a spot that makes you cry? Is that the ultimate spot? Mm-hmm. Like maybe there's a memory that's attached to it. Like I feel like that would almost be doubly as freeing because you can really just dive into it if you have that privacy.
I think that's a great point. And not even maybe just a spot, but like an event almost. And that's sort of the cherry blossoms I included in the article.
Yeah.
Because cherry blossoms don't bloom all year round. If 3 to 4 weeks, if that. And I feel like that is a very evocative sort of event in the city seasonally when the cherry blossoms bloom that might trigger, to your point, memories that are connected to the cherry blossoms, which maybe might trigger something that you unknowingly repressed at some point in your life, which to your point again might be more of a release, you know, which is so healthy. I remember once when I had a relative that had passed away, I was standing in a mosque and his coffin was nearby. His body was inside his coffin, and nothing triggered the tears that came out. It was like this almost natural, instinctual relief of this outpouring of tears that was so cleansing, you know. And I kind of even think of a time that was as freeing as that moment. And there were people around me even, but just doing it anyways, it was so beneficial mentally. Yeah,
you almost feel like you've, you know, run a marathon or done a test. It's a good exhausted feeling though, for sure. But to one of your points, like you mentioned the cherry blossoms too. I think you almost have a good thought there too, because we're so afraid as men to cry and show emotions. Maybe scheduling it is a good idea too, like the cherry blossoms, or, you know, I'm going to take a moment to go cry, you know, maybe this weekend just because I need to.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea. You could almost turn it into a self-help ritual for yourself, you know, maybe every season or, you know, every few months or something. Just pick a time to think of some things that are bringing you down, take them with you to that spot, wherever it might be. And just figure out a way to let it out. Yeah. And I'm thinking about this out loud with you. I should probably do this for myself because I obviously haven't, but it just on paper sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Give me one more spot that's good to cry at.
This one a little more urban, and it's the steps at the Vancouver Art Gallery. The rear steps, you know, where people are always skating. There's that big plaza there now. Yeah. But there are still lots of moments in the day where it's not so busy. Generally after working hours, or people in the offices around there aren't having their lunches and that sort of thing. I just find it to be a really chill spot with a really good vibe and energy. Obviously, that's not something that maybe everyone can pick up on, is the energy or vibe of an area, but I feel like it's a great spot to, again, just kind of have a moment with yourself. There's still lots of sort of things that you can distract your mind with after you let it out to sort of bring yourself back into the present moment. But I don't know, there's something about that spot that I really like.
No, I hear you. I totally get what you're saying, because it's almost like there's so much going on. People are distracted, because you're right, it seems busy, but because there's like the skaters, people eating lunch and talking, you almost kind of blend in.
And one spot, again, that's not on this list that actually you brought up on Twitter, which I think people do need to take note of, is you said that for you, the best spot to cry is where you're at. And I think that if you feel the need to, no matter where you are, even if there are people around you and it feels like it just has to happen, just do it. And, maybe there's going to be a stranger there nearby who's going to be there to comfort you as well. And it'll be just a lovely experience for both of you.
It will. And you know what else I was thinking while listening to that, Jody? Thank you, Amir Ali from the Daily Hive.